Yo, what's up, gamers? Aaron Shack here, and we are live on the Shackcast. This is going to be episode 71. Listen, it's been a while, but we've been very busy. Both channels, health struggles, burnout, like everything that comes with content creation and having episodes scheduled and ideas planned and cancellations and just the everyday things that happen. But I sort of let that bog down the podcast. I go, no, I have this episode planned. We can't do anything until this episode airs. So it's like I just need to get better at just like shifting things around. And if certain things don't work, we're always happy to accommodate and move things around. So we do and will have some exciting guests coming in the future. But today, I just want to make sure that we cover everything that's going on right now, because today we actually have a lot of news. And one of the biggest things is that Microsoft has laid off approximately 9,000 plus people. Multiple studios have been shut down, multiple projects canceled. Halo Studios also faced some of the layoffs. Battlefield 6 also faced some of the layoffs. Subnautica 2, I believe, lost two of its, I think it was like the creators, if not the creative directors, if I'm correct on that. And it just feels like all of this is a reaction to the current state of the AAA industry, which we'll get into. We'll talk about the latest with Warhammer 40k, Space Marine 2, Helldivers 2 news, Stop Killing Games, and more. Okay? So, let's dive further into what's going on with Microsoft. So, Microsoft did announce this on July 2nd, which would be yesterday, the time of air. And so, Microsoft is said to be cutting 4% of its worldwide staff, affecting about 9,000 people. And Microsoft employs more than 200,000 people globally. So it sounds like a very small amount of people, but honestly, we have to realize that there are humans, there are families, there are people's lives that are being absolutely disrupted, right, because of this. And people aren't going to be able to put food on the table until they line up another job. And, some of these layoffs, they're a surprise. It's not something where they tell you a week ahead of time or a couple months and be like, hey, start looking for a new job. We just want to accommodate you and your needs. It's like, no, we got to cut the fat, which is a horrible thing to say, but that's how they look at it. It's like, hey, we got to keep profits going up. And, if we need to get rid of people that are in various positions across all these studios that are just redundant, and, I know that's kind of a burn as well, but that's the corporate way of how they look at things up at the top. So Phil Spencer sent a memo to the staff today addressing said cuts, claiming job losses were necessary to allow for the enduring success of Xbox. We will end or decrease work in certain areas of the business and follow Microsoft's lead in removing layers of management to increase agility and effectiveness. So there's actually a little bit of a silver lining there. Getting rid of some of those extra layers of like middle management and just people that are just kind of in the way and making those big decisions. You don't need too many cooks in the kitchen, And I think that can be responsible for a lot of various games that have failed or have just been outright canceled over the years. A lot of it boils down to publishers. Number one, publishers not knowing how to manage a studio. So part of the blame could be placed on Microsoft here, or Xbox, rather. But you also have like studio leads and people just not being able to manage milestones, deadlines, all that kind of stuff. And that's probably what leads into Perfect Dark being canceled, is just, hey, there's so many milestones and you're not meeting these. So, I mean, if this game doesn't launch within the next few years, and we've already known about it for 5+ years, you're in trouble. So, this also leads to the idea that, Xbox is sort of pivoting, right? They're pivoting to hardware that isn't just the Xbox. It's hey, anything can be your Xbox. You can get on your phone, you can go in the web browser, access the cloud, you can go on your computer, you can go into I believe Samsung TVs have like an Xbox integration now, where all you need is a controller and you just sync it up to your TV and you start playing. So, and even moving their games to Nintendo and PlayStation, we're going to see Gears of War this August go over to PlayStation as well as PC and Xbox. So, yeah. How Star Citizen is getting their money. Yeah, dude. Oh, my God. Warner Brothers and Ubisoft are the worst, yeah. Yeah, and even they're facing a lot of hardships. Warner Brothers is in a lot of trouble financially. I mean, they really need a huge win. Otherwise, we're not going to be seeing a lot of games or movies from them. And Ubisoft needed Shadows to do really well, and it could never do as well as it would have to keep their studio afloat. Lots of bad decisions that we'll get into later, because I think it kind of ties into the Stop Killing Games movement, which we'll tap into. But yeah, I mean, it includes cuts over at Raven Software, which of course did Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and they are co-developing Black Ops 7. That even affects Turn 10, who did, the Forza games. Of course, Rare has been affected. Everwild was canceled. There's a new MMORPG coming from Elder Scrolls Online developer ZeniMax Online Studios, and apparently that's been under fire, and that's been in the works since 2018. Perfect Dark and The Initiative have been fully canceled, which actually... Hang on. I wanted to... Oh, man. I know we had it here. Or maybe I closed it. Yeah, so Perfect Dark and The Initiative. The Initiative was like a combined effort of multiple studios, and one of the exciting things was that... Sorry, I can't even... Hang on, I lost my... Here it is. I had this, and I guess I closed the tab. I don't know what I did. Okay, there's our gameplay reveal. I wanted to just run that in the background while we talk about Perfect Dark, because there's a lot. And, it's a shame that this never came to light, because this is a really promising game. All right, here we go. We'll just put that up in the background. But yeah, Perfect Dark being shuttered. All right, let me close this. Yeah, so, okay, so not only did we have developers from Naughty Dog, and of course it's doing the wrong freaking... Okay. Oh, dude. You try to have everything prepped, and it's still... been a while since we've been on the podcast circuit. Hang on. We're doing it live. No? There it is. Okay. Pull back. Okay. So, we have people from, like, Naughty Dog, like, people that worked on, like, the Uncharted games, like, people that are, like, incredibly skilled, want to create an incredible single-player, awesome cinematic experience. And granted, it's Perfect Dark. It's got to be first person. And I think the idea originally was that we were going to go into, like, a futuristic Cairo, Egypt, and we were going to, like, ascend this skyscraper, and it was sort of going to be a lot like maybe Die Hard would, or even Dread would be, like, some of the best examples would be just coming in here and doing that. And I mean, this showed a lot of promise, like stealth gameplay, unique gameplay mechanics, I mean, a lot of people compare it to Dishonored in some ways. Like, and just the way some of the parkour flows, which is really hard to do in a first person context, is incredibly difficult. And so I don't know. It's a large undertaking. But we also have to bring up the idea that Crystal Dynamics was helping with this ever since they were working on Avengers. And Avengers died so that this game could potentially live. And now this game's canceled. That's a huge sting. And also, Crystal Dynamics is also mentioning that their work on Tomb Raider is also facing issues. So they are working on a brand new Tomb Raider that's supposed to be running in Unreal Engine 5. And this one is apparently not going to be, allegedly, I believe it's not going to be tied in to the survival trilogy that they did from 2013 onward. So Tomb Raider 2013, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. They're in some trouble, and I don't know what to tell them, because everyone expects innovation. Everyone's always going to compare Tomb Raider and Uncharted now, and now you have Indiana Jones in the bunch, making things even more complicated. And Tomb Raider already kind of went with the open world concept of having these like open hub worlds that you explore and solve puzzles, and there's like reasons to go back and revisit areas. And so how does that evolve in modern gaming? It ends up being a very complicated game to make, but I think it's something that is well suited to Crystal Dynamics' skill set, which is much better that they work on single player Tomb Raider games rather than multiplayer live service online games. And I just want to show you, like, these are the scenes that are cycling around the internet. Are these like these moments of parkour? Like, it's always like a 1 minute clip of this, because I mean, this combat just looked really smooth. And yeah, you got slow motion, you got the sweep the leg, you got produce exploding. I mean, the nerds that just like to load up games and shoot at fruit to prove if this game is better than The Last of Us or Uncharted or Halo or whatever, they were going to go nuts with this. Yeah, and like having the mark and execute kind of system there from Splinter Cell, where you could just like, try to like go slow-mo and instantly kill people, stuff like that. It looks really cool. And I mean, I think what we were seeing here was like a return to a lot of our greatest franchises, right? We're seeing a lot of studios, try to go back to games that were iconic, 10, 20 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago at this point. Okay, so we got that. We got that clip there. It's a shame, because that gameplay looks really good, and granted, it's just a small slice, and that's from a year ago. But just knowing that that game will never see the light of day is unfortunate. Okay, so other things that I have. Of course, High Moon is affected, which they also help out on Call of Duty Warzone. Sledgehammer Games also. Blizzard. Halo Studios, we talked about that earlier. That's formerly 343. Halo Studios is working on multiple upcoming Halo titles, including a new Halo game that's running in Unreal Engine 5, which appears to be taking art and inspiration from Halo Combat Evolved. I really thought it was going to be something new, but I think at this point it's probably just going to be a Halo Combat Evolved, like, full-on remake. Like, modern graphics, modern, gameplay mechanics and stuff. I mean, it's a great story, but it's like, how many times am I going to replay the original Halo? And I think it already, the anniversary is great, like, the remasters are good. I think that should stay there. I'd like to see something new. But, like, I think what Halo could do with a game like this, is whether they're rebooting or not, take it back to what made Halo great. Before you created all these new races in Halo 4 and 5 and got the story real convoluted, Go back to the Covenant, the Flood, maybe even show the insurgency movements, which is like why the Spartan program was created. Maybe even let us play as people other than Master Chief. Let's have Jerome, Spirit of Fire, like, get Halo Wars coming out with new games every so often. Like, you could be doing so much more with Halo, but you just want to keep it as a first-person shooter. And when you fail to execute, it's a problem. Now, Romero Games, which is headed up by John and Brenda Romero, also said that a publisher has canceled funding for their new game, and people are speculating because of the timing it's Microsoft. Hard to say. I mean, could be true, but hard to say with any sort of factual information. But yeah, just the constant remakes is kind of exhausting. I think we need something new. Yeah, and Capcom really needs to get on the ball with Dino Crisis, because they came out with, what was the name of that dinosaur game that Capcom did that we all thought it was, yeah, Exoprimal. And they even had the nerve to show someone that looked like the main character from Dino Crisis. So we were like, redheaded girl? Oh shit, Dino Crisis is back. And it's like, no, it's fucking Anthem meets like PvE, VP, mechs, dinosaurs. Stupid. I get that probably some people liked it and were excited for it, but I was like, you were so close. Like, all the hype around Jurassic Park, the absence of Dino Crisis games, and people are longing to go back to those types of games. Even Resident Evil doing lots of remakes. Dino Crisis should be doing remakes on par with what Resident Evil's doing. I mean, you have the RE engine, and you already have the baseline for that system that you were doing with Resident Evil 2 remake, Resi 4, Resi 3 remake, all the remakes, right? Just do it with Dino Crisis. If you want to do it that way without the fixed camera angles, just, third person, modernize it, great. That would be killer. People would be lining up for that. But you have indie developers that are coming up on that. Now, we do have bad news about Anthem, actually. Anthem is going to be shut down in January. It will be completely unplayable at that point. And that's why we're going to talk about the Stop Killing Games movement around the end of the show, is that it aims to sort of not force developers to keep their games online indefinitely, but it aims to preserve video gaming history. So we'll tap into that some more. Like, I loved Anthem. I saw its flaws. It's definitely a flawed game, but it was fun, and I had a good time with it. Like, I didn't have a lot of complaints. Yeah, the RE engine. Yeah, I mean, you might have to make some tweaks and whatnot, but, I mean, there are people who are purists that would rather Dino Crisis, play like those old school, Dino Crisis games and like the older Resident Evil games, tank controls, camera angles, whatever, and maybe modernize some of that. I don't know. I just think any Dino Crisis at this point would be better than none. But you are literally sitting on some of the technology that you could perfectly reimagine Dino Crisis and bring it to a new generation, as well as allow older generations to recapture that nostalgia, Okay, so moving on from there, we are going to check out a quick overview of Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, which I think, let me pull it up over here. I do believe it's on sale. Yeah, it looks like on Steam, part of the Steam summer sale, Space Marine 2 Standard Edition $35.99. You can get the Gold Edition for $53.99 or the Ultra Edition for $59.99. So, I mean, the price of like a standard full price game to get you like tons and tons of content. They've already put out a year of content, and right now we're going to talk about what a year 2 could potentially be. So let's pull up some of the patch notes. We're just going to kind of skim through it and hit some of the highlights here. And we'll talk about a little bit what's coming after year 1 here. Okay. So free content, new PvE mode Siege, which we covered last Friday, I believe. New cosmetic rewards for weapons, of course. We got the Blood Angels and the White Scars pack. So this is a cosmetic pack, which includes, like, you know, color schemes, like a brighter red, more metallic looking red for the Blood Angels, which I sported on Friday. Or was that Saturday? New helmets, like new pauldrons. There's even unlocks for Siege mode. Then we have the White Scars chapter pack, which I guess it does include the knife. Yeah, so new weapon skins, full-on armor for the assault class. The Bulwark can now use Thunderhammer, which we saw Andrew doing that as we were doing our Siege mode. Cosmetic rewards, including the Ultramarine Sergeant Left Pauldron decal. Class and weapons perks balancing, absolute difficulty balancing, which they've polled the community on that. Option to turn off bots in private lobbies. You can do that. That's, you know, if you want to truly solo everything. But we also had the Power Axe has been revealed to be the next weapon that's coming to the game. They're showing off some of the various cosmetics and stuff. Blood Angels are looking really good. This is Twitch Drops, which we were live, and I think you just got to watch for like 30 minutes or an hour, and you get all this stuff, which is armor, just cosmetic stuff, but nevertheless worth it. Okay, second year. They're happy to announce the second year of both free and paid DLC content included in the new yearly season pass is on the way. So the extended support to Space Marine 2, even though they've announced that Space Marine 3 is on the way, but it's at least like several years out. And they said, hey, we still have several years of support planned for Space Marine 2. So even if you think like, oh, I'm getting in too late, you're not getting in too late. You're just in time. Siege mode just dropped. There's tons of content available in the game. There's like 9 PvE missions that are available, plus a campaign that you can play in 3-player co-op as well. It's a lot of game, plus PvP. So yeah, once again, it's thanks to everyone's unwavering support. New PvE missions, new enemies, weapons, and more. So they say stay tuned. Large-scale update planned for September. The 10.0 major update. 9.0 will not bring new content, but just balancing changes, which is probably necessary to make sure that the game is in a good state. Unfortunately, this means that the new PvP mode we were planning to release alongside 9.0 will be postponed to 10.0, which I think is fine. You know, it's more important to have the game in a stable and playable state with balancing and all that stuff done before you try to introduce bigger and newer modes. Okay? So, least we can do is reveal what this new mode is. New mode takes place on the new map. It will oppose 2 sides. It won't be Loyalist versus Chaos like in regular PvP. Chaos will face Chaos. Last but not least, you'll be able to take control of the Hellbrute. Yup. So, I think the idea is that it's going to have like our Chaos Marines potentially battling with other factions of Chaos, which could be really cool. New game modes centered around Chaos. New Chaos armors will also be added to the game. A new melee weapon will be added, the Power Axe. It will have its own moveset, execution animations, etc. So they're going to show more of that later on. But that's the reason why it takes them so long to come up with the new weapon here, is that they want to give it the TLC that the Thunderhammer got and pretty much every melee weapon, every ranged weapon has been carefully tailored and given its own executions and animations and stuff like that. And if you want it to continue meeting the very high bar of quality that weapons have in Space Marine 2, you kind of have to let the devs cook. So I think this is a great addition to the game, and I'll be excited to wield it. So they're working on a new class for PvE and PvP, and they're now advanced enough in its development to announce that this class will be a Tech Marine. We'll reveal more about this new class in the next community updates, so stay tuned. But yeah, there's Siege Mode. There's all these updates that we've previously talked about. Yeah, it looks like 2 hours. 2 hours watch time if you want the bolt pistol skin. But yeah, you watch for an hour, you get the chainsword and the helmet, which looks really dope. Okay, DLSS 4 support, RTAO. A little bit of changes with classes and stuff. So, pretty cool. I think a lot of excitement is on the way for Space Marine 2, and it is well deserved. Now, speaking of, we have an exciting new announcement from Helldivers 2. A new dawn is upon us. Super Earth is expanding its operations and opening new enlistment centers. Xbox players, your opportunity to enlist is coming when Helldivers 2 deploys to Xbox Series X and S August 26th. You can pre-order the Standard Edition for $40 and the Super Citizen Edition of Helldivers 2 starting today. So I'm gonna actually pull this up so you guys can just like, hang on, I don't want to get demonetized to hell. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this was inevitable. This is a huge win for Helldivers. We definitely need more people out there fighting the good fight. And I saw this coming even when the game first launched. I was like, okay, it's PS5, PC, but this is a perfect Xbox game, right? Like, Xbox gamers are used to playing games like Halo and Gears of War. We're used to going up against hordes of enemies like this, and this just suits the Xbox audience so well. And for a game like Helldivers, you really want the largest audience possible because it is a community war game where we are literally, trying to wage large-scale war across the galaxy. And so we need the largest amount of soldiers, and with all the controversies and people leaving the game, people coming back, all this controversy, and the game has ultimately resolved all that as I said it would, but we've gotten to this point, and now it is coming to Xbox. I feel long overdue. I think it should have been a multi-platform game, but Sony likes their exclusivity. Now, there's another thing coming from a lot of industry analysts are saying that the gaming industry is facing a significant shift in how players purchase games. And they're saying nearly 30% of gamers are expected to buy no new games in 2025. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that most people are defaulting to games like Fortnite, GTA Online, Roblox, Destiny, The Division, Warframe. I mean, it could be anything. It could be even players now that have picked up like Dune, and they're like, hey, this is my ride or die game. Or they bought Elden Ring or Night Rain, and they're just like, yeah, this is my game. Like, I'm just going to play this all year. Like, I don't need these other games that are like a risk. I don't need these games that end up flopping. I don't need live service games that are, something like Avengers or Suicide Squad where it's like, oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite franchises. But then it fails, and then the game just dies and explodes into the ether. People are going with what works, and games that are already like critically acclaimed, praised, have large player bases, and of course established audiences. So it's the same way that people aren't going to leave like Siege or Apex Legends or all these various live service games. People have found their game that they kind of just call home, and it's just a change in the industry. It's part live service game. It's part like how the mobile game industry has invaded like mainstream gaming with a lot of the practices, whether it's the gotcha stuff, whether it's live service mechanics and promising patches and new content and stuff like that further on down the road. And it leads to a lot of developers sort of creating their plans around, okay, how can we have microtransactions in this game? Or how can we extend the life of this game so that we can sell you more content down the road, so that we can keep, the doors of the studio open, minimize layoffs, and then be able to fund a potential next game. So also getting into the game preservation stuff, EA is shutting down Anthem servers on January 12th, 2026. After this date, the game will be no longer playable. So Anthem, according to their QA here, Anthem was designed to be an online-only title, so once the servers go offline, the game will no longer be playable. And so that's something we're going to tap into right after this very fun little ad break, okay? So I want to point this out. I'm not sponsored here, but Theory Sabers is having a deal. Buy one, get two lightsabers free. Just use code FREEDOM at the checkout. Now, I've watched a lot of Star Wars Theory's content, and I've seen a lot of his passion for creating these incredibly durable and accurate, film-accurate lightsabers. And they have a lot of really cool stuff. They have a little Saber School section, which will teach you like different attack patterns so that you can practice either alone or with a friend. But what's really cool, he kind of made a video about this, is that basically you buy any Pixel Saber, SNV or Profi, and those are the different like sound profiles that you can get in it. And you can pick. You can get the free pack, which includes a lot of stuff, or you could say, oh, I like the prequel sound pack, or the original trilogy sound pack, or the sequel trilogy, or the video game sound pack, or whatever, or the streaming TV show sound pack, right? And you can buy all those later if you want. So what's really cool here is that you find your saber, and the two sabers that they're giving you are like kind of like practice sabers. So they're cheaper, but the idea is that you'll use those and, practice with them, in other words. And the other cool thing is that the sabers, those two sabers can actually be combined. He mentioned this, they can be combined, and you can just wield, rather than train with a friend or dual wield sabers like Ahsoka, you could actually put them together and have your Cal Kestis, your Darth Maul moment, and practice that way. And of course, he has a lot of sabers across the board. But I think it's worth checking out. Look around, see if you can find sabers. I mean, there are some that are really, like there are high-end ones, right? Like there are some that are incredibly like replica state. But what I did was, I did get the Prodigal Son, but it was, I got one of the cheaper versions, because there's one without the, there's the affordable version, and then there's the one with the emitter here, which kind of sticks out, and it's not really good for twirling. So, yeah, they even have, like, weathered versions of lightsabers. Yeah, this is, like, the cheapest one right here. $169. And there are some even cheaper than that. And of course, you pick your sound profile, which you're going to have to go with SNV or Profi. And you pick your blade length, and then you pick which sound font package you want. And I believe they have a place here under exclusive packages where you can listen to that. But yeah, I mean, everything looks really good. Customer service is there to help you. There's a lot of product reviews. He has videos on his YouTube. I mean, I've not seen anyone that's been this supportive of Star Wars and George Lucas's vision. So once again, this is a limited time thing. This is a 4th of July sale. So I would say log in as quick as you can, shop around, because like even if you're spending $60, $100, $200, Getting 3 sabers is like insane. That is an insane deal. So definitely really good stuff. Really good stuff. So next, just want to point out, aaronshack.com is the website if you want to learn more about me, support the channel, all that various stuff. Let's see. I don't know if we have... No, that's my spring store, which is still open. Yeah, we have gaming news and reviews, photography. Of course, we have the media kit for developers and stuff to reach out to me. You can also see them in various creator programs, and I've logged some of the various games that we've covered on the channel. aaronshack.com is the place. So now, I want to actually drop some new merch on you guys. I was going to make a new video, but I was like, you know what? Let's go full ad here. We have a new thing coming to my Fourth Wall merch store, and it's called the Half HP t-shirt. And it's sort of designed by me, representing my own journey of like health and wellness and struggles with like my hands and having like numbness and pain and stuff like that, and not really having like a firm diagnosis, just kind of taking various different, medicines and tests and burning up money doing all this stuff. The Half HP line is a design made with the intention of when a gamer is at half HP in a video game, we fight harder, we become more dexterous, careful in every movement and action. It's a reminder that in every struggle, illness, disability, any pain that we face in our lives, sometimes we fight the hardest when the odds are against us. And I'm going to show you right now the Half HP t-shirt, which we'll have it go live after the podcast. It takes some time because it doesn't always go live right away. And of course, if you're trying to find it on my YouTube merch self, it might even take even more days. I'm struggling getting things approved. But of course, we have a wide variety of colors that you can get the shirt in. And basically, the idea is showing you like half health. And I chose hearts because, hearts are pretty prevalent, especially in like retro nostalgic video games. But I think it also speaks to health, right? It speaks to our overall health and wellness, which we always need to make sure to guard. So you can see how it looks on a person. And of course, we have our QR codes that link to my website on the sleeve and the back. So not only can you, support by picking up a shirt, but you can also sort of advertise the brand a little bit, and people can kind of nondescriptly just scan that little QR code on the sleeve or on the back there. Just a way to kind of free advertise for me a little bit. And it goes up to 3XL. I know there's some shirts that will have 4 and 5XL, but I think production is kind of temperamental on that. It's not always available, but that's kind of the story about the Half HP t-shirt. And I might be able to set up a sale soon, but I have to get the shirts live first, and then we could go from there. We could definitely do some promotions on that, but I wanted to reveal that. Also, with our limited run playthrough of Death Stranding 2, we have the Keep On Keeping On t-shirt that you've seen me wearing on a couple of our Death Stranding 2 streams. This is going to be a limited run. It's going to leave the merch store once we finish the Death Stranding 2 playthrough. I also have the sticker set, which also comes with some QR codes that you can, spam around the area and help promote the stream. We got the pin set and, of course, the Aaron's Love t-shirt in a wide variety of colors. I try to keep the prices as low as possible. Okay, so the last thing we're going to tap into, Stop Killing Games. And if you haven't already heard about the controversy around the movement or what it is about, I thought let's just dig in just a little bit here to the FAQ, because I'm not going to get into the drama on the podcast, but if you guys would like me to do a separate video on this, just let me know in the comments, in the live stream, or in the comments after this is a video. You can let me know in the comments down below if you'd like me to elaborate on the drama, but I have links in the description down below that will actually allow you to listen to Ross, who runs this movement, and he actually talks about some of the struggles he's faced because of pirate software's misconstruing of the movement and misrepresenting it, and just not reading what the movement is about. And this is not the first time I've caught that particular streamer with a massive ego trip, not reading something and misrepresenting something. So it's not unusual for someone who proclaims to be the smartest person in game dev and just the smartest person in every room that he walks into. You would think that reading would play a big factor there. So, how are publishers destroying video games? How? Some of you may not know. Let's talk about it. So, StopKillingGames.com if you want to know more. An increasing number of video games are designed to rely on a server the publisher controls in order for the game to function. So, kind of like how we talked about Anthem earlier. It's just not going to work whenever the publisher, EA, shuts down BioWare's game, right? So it says it acts as a lifeline to the game. When the publisher decides to turn this off, it's essentially cutting off life support to the game, making it completely inoperable for all customers. Companies that do this often intentionally prevent people from repairing the game also by withholding vital components. So what does that mean? It could mean server access, the ability for us to create our own servers, for mods to come in and make use of a game and revive it after its death. Various things like that. So why should people care about publishers destroying video games? While video games are primarily just for entertainment and not much of consequence, the practice of a seller destroying a product that someone has already paid for represents a radical assault on consumer rights and even the concept of ownership itself. So we talked about Ubisoft earlier and saying how they said, hey, you're just going to have to get used to not owning your games. And, in the way that Xbox and PlayStation have subscription services, which essentially allow you to, rent games as long as you're subscribed to their service, and as long as said games, third-party games that typically cycle in and out of the services, much like Netflix, as long as those are available. But first-party Xbox games are usually always available on Game Pass. So, if this practice doesn't stop, it may be codified into law and spread to other products of more importance over time, such as agricultural equipment, educational products, medical devices, etc. It's important consumers maintain a basic level of rights so as not to be overrun by predatory practices. Video games are unique creative works, and I talk about this quite a lot. The concept of destroying every existing copy of a book, song, film, etc. would be considered a cultural loss for society. While a less recognized medium, video games still deserve to have basic protections against the complete and willful destruction of many of its works. So I talk about this a lot, about how we need to preserve video game history and about how so many older games are just facing massive price hikes because as games age, there's less copies out in the wild. They're no longer being manufactured. So, the prices go up. And that's how we get where a copy of Rule of Rose could be $500-$600. A copy of Silent Hill 2 could be $200-$300 or more, depending on who you're buying it from. Is it a sealed copy, whatever. So what this campaign aims to do, there are two wings of the campaign. There's an EU petition and there's a UK petition. And you can sign up for both. But of course, if you're in the United States, you're just going to have to sit back and wait for our turn here. Because the idea here is that if this spreads in the EU, this is going to affect the way games are created all across the world. Okay? So the fire starts here. The fire of the revolution starts here. So they want to require video games sold to remain in a working state when support ends. Require no connections to the publisher after support ends, and not interfere with business practices while a game is still being supported. And so this would be aiming to pass a new law. This is just, they need enough signatures to be able to bring this up to the EU and in the UK. So games are actually licensed and not technically sold to customers, but it is, as it says here, it's a legal gray area. In the U.S., this is generally the case. In other countries, the law is not as clear. You're only sold your individual copy of the game license for personal use, not intellectual property rights to the video game itself. So, and this is where pirate software comes in and says, you can't force developers to keep games online indefinitely and publishers and stuff. People are just going to make less of these types of games or whatever. And, not at all. The majority of online multiplayer games in the past functioned without any company servers and were conducted by the customers privately hosting servers themselves and connecting to each other. So that's one way. You could have servers in a location where we all pay to use it, or you could have it where it's hosted client side, where if I'm playing a game of Gears of War, my friend can join in and play Gears of War with me, and I'm hosting the game. So it's all the pressure is on my internet, my server, whatever, right? So games that were designed this way are still playable today. As to the practicality, this can vary significantly. And of course, this is why they're not like forcing developers retroactively to do this. They're kind of like, hey, let's just look towards the future and try to make sure that we can make this happen for future games. And then, maybe there's a way that will help us revive games of the past that are lost to history. So it's a really interesting movement, and it's a pretty long and exhausting FAQ. And maybe that's why Pirate Software didn't want to read it. And I think if you want to learn more about that controversy, I have links in the description down below. I believe... Yeah, I have the Stop Killing Games website and FAQ. And above that, there's a video where Ross talks about some of his struggles and addresses a lot of Pirate Software's comments one by one. I really don't think I need to sit here and rehash it, and I try to keep the podcast as a place where I don't call people out and rag them, and I don't want to pull up clips and listen to this guy, and I think he's a piece of shit, but it's because of the massive ego and the failure to admit, hey, I just didn't read all the terms, so I misrepresented this movement. But kind of the good thing that's happened with that is that the petition has grown significantly because drama and controversy brings people, and they're like, oh, this guy's wrong about this? I thought he was right. He was, people say he's the Mr. Rogers of game dev and internet, when it couldn't be further from the truth. So, it's brought, all that controversy has brought more people and gotten more signatures, and it looks like they're probably going to get enough signatures to move on, but I would invite you to check those links in the description down below. If you're in the UK or if you're in the EU, there are two separate lost my train of thought. Two separate campaigns that you can sign for, petitions. So yeah. But let me double check. I think we have managed to hit everything that we wanted to talk about today. But yeah, don't forget, check out the merch store after this. Grab yourself a half HP t-shirt. I'll let you guys know when it's live. I'll post about it in the YouTube feed and the Discord, but I wanted to launch this new merch for you guys today, exclusively on the podcast. So once again, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this. I don't know. Should we do some gaming? We could pivot to some gaming here in a little bit. I really only got about 2 hours to kill. Yeah, we might do that. Yeah, we got like 2 hours. But yeah, it's a lot of news. The Xbox layoffs are disappointing, and Perfect Dark being canceled is a huge hit. But Space Marine, a AAA, single player co-op PvP game that just kind of feels like a classic game from the Xbox 360 era in terms of design in a way, where it's just a straightforward game. It doesn't have all these elements that will, when the game ceases development, that the game won't be playable. No, there will be ways to keep that floating. So I think that's why we're seeing games like that, Black Myth Wukong, Stellar Blade, like just like conventional video games that don't have to be these endless open world games or live service games or battle royales and looter shooters and stuff like that. Even though those things have their place, I think this pivot for AAA is necessary because these games that are having $100 million budgets, it's just completely unfeasible at this point because it's kind of like the way the movie industry is headed as well, like with Marvel and DC and all that. If it takes several $100 million to make said movie, and then you got to spend hundreds of millions on marketing, and then you have to potentially make like $1 billion worldwide to even like break even or get some sort of profitability. And if games are reaching that point, like that's it just shows that we're about to hit a really big bubble if things don't change. And when that bubble pops, I mean, it's gonna affect a lot of people. It's gonna, gamers are probably pull back from gaming as much because there just won't be good games to play. And that's kind of what the warning was today about people buying less games, but it's also about games ownership. It's about digital purchases that can be revoked at any time, licenses that can be removed, games that like The Crew that can just cease to exist, or games like Overwatch that can just completely be shut down and disappear as soon as the sequel launches. It's insane. So, I think that's where we stand. But yeah, definitely check out TheorySabers.com. Check out my website, AaronShack.com. Check out the merch store on Fourth Wall. I got links in the description down below to everything. Sign the Stop Killing Games petition. Read about it. Become educated about it before, you go out and make YouTube videos and make a fool of yourself in front of the whole internet like Pirate Software did. It's kind of a douche. So, once again, I want to thank you for watching. Take care. Be safe. And I believe we'll upload this podcast, and then I'll pivot to some gaming right after this. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.